Thank you very much, Pyra, and welcome everyone to the LCS post-game lobby. We're going to close out week 3 of the spring split. That's not true. It's the summer split. I'm Sjokz here with Vedius, Drakos, and G2's coach, Grabbz. Welcome, Grabbz. Your players, the interview was over, and Sjokz was like, "No, I want to play carry junglers, and they should play tank tops, and they're sick of it." They're sick of it. What do you have to say about that?
I mean, we're winning, so they can't complain. That's all.
How do you keep your jungler in line? I feel like he's getting a little out of control.
It's actually funny, like he's so accepting of it. I was really surprised. Like I thought, okay, Jankos, like for 6 years, carry jungler, first Blood King. And he's like, yeah, it's fine. I mean, of course he doesn't have fun. But the winning.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, to be fair, that's only what we expect from professional players. I think we're just joking when we're saying that Sjokz would go rogue, or are we?
I just love that every interview is a chance for him to beg to play. Last time was like, the meta's terrible.
But I love it.
And I hate it, but it's really good. So much funnel comps suck, but it's also great, I swear.
In any case, you guys went 2-0, and today was not a funnel comp. It was, well, it was still Lucian in the mid lane, and that is something that Perkz has done many times before. Why a slightly different approach today?
I mean, first of all, they banned Braum and they banned Rakan. We still could have played funnel with different champions, but we don't have to, as Perkz did yesterday.
Yeah.
It's not like we're only playing funnel, like we're actually playing 60-40, like we play more standard. And it just works for us on stage, but yeah, there's no rush for us to actually play funnel comp.
Well, you hadn't played it on stage yet. I feel like maybe we were a bit
week
baited yesterday. Oh, that is true.
That was the first dinger.
Yeah, then it was more Fnatic funnel comp.
But what I thought was interesting was that yesterday Perkz was like, you guys need to talk about other people on our team. You know, it's not just me doing all the work. And we're like, if you just let someone else play the game, we'll happily talk about other people. And today we saw Hyanan really having a great performance. We saw Wadid playing well. We got to see Sjokz actually play his jungle. And he was actually like 0-0-2, so Perkz did nothing. So now we actually get to celebrate the other members on his team. And Hyanan had some amazing Heimerdinger plays.
Look at what's on.
Ooh, Hyanan was player of the game.
Yes,
Congratulations to Hyanan.
I was trying to gesture.
I don't look at the prompter. That's the thing. You guys' job.
So this is why you're better than Deficios, because you can read the prompter when prompted.
That's true.
I think it's a bit unfair. Deficio has gotten so many shots.
Well, like he's not here. This is our only
because
opportunity.
He's not here. We're not being very collegial. That's not very nice. In any case, let's take a look at the standings and let's talk to our guest, Grabbz. Congratulations, 6-0 now after the spring finals. We were looking so much at G2 and how the evolution would go. How do you feel you're doing up until now? Besides winning, how happy are you with your form?
It's pretty fine. Of course, in every game there are small stuff you can change up today. I wasn't happy with the early game. I think the bot tower should have gone down like 4 minutes early in the game, and then we just rolled over them. But communication-wise, it was very hectic for some reason. But aside from that, I think our goals we're meeting right now, and playing-wise, we just do what we want to do. And until now, no team actually challenges us too much, especially in a funnel comp. I think. I mean, there's one team we're still playing which has actually an idea how to play against it, but I think the rest of the EU right now tries stuff, but it's not sure, and then it's just very easy for us.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because what we heard from Moosey today, sorry, the Moose, on the analyst desk was that he was a little disappointed that like he didn't want to BM, but it felt like that many teams couldn't challenge their early game. And you're now saying that you feel that a lot of teams haven't been able to properly channel the funnel comp. Do you consider Misfits then your biggest threat, especially coming in after Rift Rivals? I
mean, for sure, they have the best early game in the EU right now. And from experience, they actually know also what the weaknesses are. Doesn't mean they can, like, they're always stompers or something. It's still 5-5.
For sure.
It's just the risk is higher. And also, depending on what champs we have, you have to punish it differently. Of course, I can't go in detail here.
Yeah.
But if we go final against Misfits, it will be, of course, the hardest game for sure.
Yeah, it might be a very exciting one.
Yeah, one thing I want to talk about if we have time is I want to know if you...
Yes, we have time.
If you feel like G2 right now is over-reliant on individual skill, because I feel like every game I watch from you guys, like when you guys played Schalke, right, like Wunder single-handedly won you the game, just like off the bat, right, by killing Chachi, by like relieving all pressure. And in this game, it feels like against Unicorns of Love, they threw so many ganks at Perkz mid lane, and Perkz played perfectly, don't get me wrong. But against a team that's more adept, more with better individual talent, that is a little bit more coordinated, I feel like he would have gone down there and you wouldn't have been able to win nearly as easily. So my concern is, I haven't seen a game yet where you guys are matched mechanically, like at all. And so I'm wondering, if you're matched mechanically, does your macro keep up? Are the games still as clean as we're seeing them now?
It looks like it from your perspective, but actually it was just 2 big misplays because we know all the time the Pyke is moving. And Perkz is the player who knows he has flash up, he has his dash, he cannot play the gank. So it goes further up than other players, right? So it's not us being surprised by the roams, it's just he knows he's safe in the boundaries of the gank. And us not punishing there as well. That was a big mistake. Like, if Pyke is moving, we should have better bot side control. And as I said, the tower should got on earlier. So yes, we can say that we rely on individual strength, but I think overall it was just a mistake from us reading the game properly.
Do you think that you haven't been mechanically matched yet?
It's always hard to say, especially if you play a funnel comes 5 times. Overall, I think, especially the top side thing you mentioned, it doesn't actually matter that much in the game, the way how we want to approach the game. So, of course, it helps us more, but I don't think it matters at the moment. In Fnatic, it's a strong individual team for sure. Yesterday was a bit harder in the early game. I think they could have been more aggressive with Camille especially.
I agree.
So it's kind of like stressing me out when he was 2-0 already after 5 minutes, but then our vision control was better. I wouldn't put it down though to individual skill for now.
Okay, you just know what's coming and you know how to play to your strengths. That's very much the same for Misfits, so we are very excited to see what that match of the week will bring after Rift Rivals. But you've got Rift Rivals in the middle, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. I do want to touch on Team Vitality as well. They have another 2-0 week. They bounce back almost perfectly, so good job on them. What do you think of their strengths? Do you think they'll be a real threat for you going further in the split and possibly for that title fight?
I think they're just the same as last split.
Okay.
That means they're very aggressive early game. If they get a lead, they're good at snowballing. If they don't get a lead, then I think they struggle a lot in actually putting the correct lane assignments, how to put pressure on the map, how to read the map. So I think compared to teams like us or Misfits, Fnatic later on as well, I don't think they will have the biggest shot. I mean, again, the early game is so strong that they can always take a game.
I will say that one of Vitality's biggest strengths for me is their creativity and willingness to change. When you do see big patch shifts due to their wide champion pools and the fact that so many different players can play so many different things is an advantage that allows them to adapt or maybe read the meta a little bit faster than other teams. So with 8.13 coming out next week, and I think like a couple of things will be changing, I think that Vitality is the kind of team that will get ahead and can help pick up those wins. And especially coming to things like playoffs, depending on where the patch lands, that can be very favorable for them. But I do agree that, like, as a team, in terms of as a whole, I haven't seen a huge amount of development outside of they're still very early game focused. They know how to snowball, and they have a lot of creative picks.
I think for me, I think when you look at Vitality in a vacuum, they actually have gotten better. It's just when you look at them in comparison to top teams, they've stayed relatively the same because G2 is getting better, Fnatic is cleaning up their play, and Misfits are getting much, much better. I think when you look at them compared to the bottom of the table, they're actually growing at a faster rate, and so there's no doubt in my mind that Vitality will be strong playoff contenders, but I do think it's going to take some kind of giant growth for them to really be on the same level as a Misfits, as a G2, or eventually Fnatic, of course, depending on how the rest of the season plays out.
Especially when you look at Misfits and G2, I feel like if they end up in a deficit, you guys are very well equipped to come back from that. That is something that Vitality has struggled with. Also, when they were on that downward spiral in the spring split, they don't do well when they are behind. They don't really have the mechanics to get back into the game, it seems, and that for me would be a huge thing I'm looking at when they go up against the higher caliber teams in the next couple of weeks. Can they not let that snowball run? Can they do something against that? But that's something that we'll have to track. Finally, Fnatic. We had a big conversation about who the best teams in Europe are, and G2 Esports, Misfits Gaming, and Fnatic are the ones you and we pitched at the beginning of the weekend. Do you stand by that still?
I still stand by that pretty adamantly. I think now that the bigger debate is between G2 and Misfits, largely because I think that one of the big issues we're now actually starting to see from Fnatic is they've become a little predictable in that when you have Bwipo, you know they're not going to have an AD carry in the bot lane, right? So it's either going to be a mage or a bruiser, and that gives you some advantages because it actually helps you better prepare for the style of draft that they're going for. And even though originally this kind of this big, heavy bruiser comp that Fnatic brought out was a little unique, people weren't entirely prepared for it. Now time has passed. Now teams know how to respond better. And I think that they need to be willing to use Reckless a little bit more. Otherwise, teams will start to figure out how to shut down Bwipo in the bot lane, and they will start to continue to punish that just like G2 did yesterday.
Is there a risk when you're putting your top player at a disadvantage that he's not getting stage time for maybe 2-3 weeks upon end, that you just have to count in some buffer time when he comes back then because he just needs to get used to everything again? I know he's very experienced, Reckless, but it's, you know, it could maybe have some troubles down the line for Fnatic if maybe he comes back in week 6. I don't know.
I think with Reckless, we don't see that issue. Like, he's in the scene way too long.
We've heard, I think, that Fnatic are still practicing standard compositions to a certain degree. So if he's splitting scrim time, I don't know what the split is. If it's like 10-90, then obviously I think he's going to be a little bit out of practice. But you see him spamming solo queue. You see him spamming AD carries. He's clearly still practicing. And I think that if he was a young player, that ultimately best of one stage experience would be important for him. But because he's a veteran, kind of like you mentioned, I don't think it's super consequential.
Final thing before we move on. because Grabbz, I know you have a history with the team as well. Roccat is actually doing pretty good, and they made it to playoffs last split around. What do you think of their growth?
I mean, from Roccat, what I like the most is their vision control. I think they're one of the better teams in the league, also compared to us and Misfits. They can hold pretty well up there. The thing that worries me is that the same as Vitality are the same team, kind of. That means if the game goes to 25 minutes and the game is even, they have a very good basis to play the game. Or if a mentor, of course, pops off in the early game.
Agree.
But they're still lacking the proactivity as a team in the early mid-game. So in the end as well, same for Vitality. If they don't improve that, I don't see them having a chance actually at the top spots.
Does that go for all these teams? Roccat, Schalke, Splyce, Unicorns of Love, Giants, HUK. I think for all of them, you can say a similar thing. We're lacking proactivity in the early game, proactivity to take control of games.
I mean, I kind of disagree to a certain degree because I think that Memento showed that he could be proactive, even excluding that game where he got the Trundle triple, where he basically walked into a botched fight and took a bunch of kills. I think it's been a struggle. I think it's been inconsistent, but they've shown that. I think the bigger weakness that they have is that if they don't hard snowball early, they're super reliant on late game picks. And I think Splyce took advantage of that when they took Profit off the Vladimir.
Yeah.
It's a pick that's been played by Hiku as well. And when they get to late game team fights, they're clearly a pretty confident team, kind of like you talked about, getting into the mid game, having that confidence. But when they don't have this kind of crutch to fall back on in late game scaling picks, they're just not good enough to execute what would have been the equivalent of like an old school 1-3-1 comp, where you need to play perfectly to close out a game. And that's kind of what we saw against Splyce today. Was they tried to play something where you had to play a perfect game, and they got advantages. But when it came to we have to avoid the Wombo combo, Splyce were just better at making a clean call. Yeah,
every time I look at Roccat, I always think, they have so many good fundamentals. This team always has the right idea. They seem to have a clear game plan, but the execution is always the thing that that bothers me, because like it's interesting that I agree their vision control is good. Last split, I thought they were one of the best Baron-taking teams in the league, and I feel like that the planning and the idea is good, but sometimes the execution is just off. People being out of position, not utilizing the vision properly, someone trying to push a lane when they shouldn't. It's just, if they could just improve that, they could really be a top contender, but because they lack that, for now, they're going to stick towards the middle and bottom.
Well, all of the teams have some time, excluding G2 Esports, Fnatic, and Splyce, to work on their issues, as we will be going to Rift Rivals, the NA versus EU clash. 14 regions from across the globe will battle for regional pride and bragging rights. So first, let's get a little taste of the action.
Yeah. You guys remember last year?
我猜咱们算是不相上下吧。Mano, vocês chegaram nem perto.
Bize rakip olmak istiyorsanız daha iyisini yapmanız lazım. O çarpta kaçar mı ya?
Bir daha olmasın.
Cara, tu quer ser o melhor nessa rivalidade?
なんで出場するかってプライドをかけて戦う Tem os vencedores.
And then everyone else is, you know.
Hadi bakalım, göster gücünü.
タイトルが欲しければ奪いに来い
Pode vir, vem pegar.
The best part about this is that Vedius can finally root for Rampage. And I'm sorry, I was like, NA versus EU, yes, but then the second I saw Tussle on that screen, I could not help but think about how you like went out on a limb for these guys, and they could do it, Vedius.
Maybe
They can. Lovely teaser, all the
hype.
Protagonists from all the regions. Doublelift saying, do you remember last year? No, but I remember MSI. Salty. No. But of course, last year, a bit of a not so good for EU. We lost to NA. And it wasn't pretty.
That was soft language. We sucked.
We sucked.
And the worst part was we were all just like, Fnatic should have a clean win. G2 will be in a close second. Unicorns, we think they'll be mad.
Yeah, but this was when Fnatic was really good in EU. They were slapping everyone. G2 was good.
This is the best and worst part, is that we were like flamed Unicorns of Love for doing the same thing every game when they built team fighting compositions. And then when every other team collapsed, they did the same thing we flamed them for to kind of give us some redemption.
Yeah.
Will be good. Yeah, Drakos and Vedius, you are heading over. It's starting in Los Angeles next Thursday and Friday with the group stage, followed by the finals on Saturday. So now let's then look at our EU teams, our EU representatives who are going and what we think. So Grabbz, what can we expect of G2 Esports?
Yeah, Grabbz, what can we expect?
Dominance.
Especially
Just to say
finally
it's
against...
100 Thieves, Team Liquid, and Echo Fox.
Yeah, I mean, after Double's comments, I really want to play Funnel against him. Right? Like, if he doesn't like it, then he's going to suffer. So I'm looking forward to that. Overall, I think it's a mixed bag. We have Splice right now, who can be our Phoenix 1, I think, this time.
Yeah.
Like, because the fundamentals are still really good. It's just, I think, that they have a weird read on how to play the game at the moment with the picks. But they're still a strong team. And yeah, as long as we don't get caught in this go 10-man mid meta that NA is there since 1.5 years, I think we should be fine.
So I've been watching these three teams particularly over the last 2 weeks, and the easiest way to summarize them is Team Liquid is by far the best team in NA right now. They play the most standard League of Legends you can get. You can associate them quite closely to Misfits, except they don't have the same early game proactivity, but they are very standard, and they're a very smart team. Echo Fox is like Vitality, but with better players. That's what makes them really scary, because they have a lot of experienced talent, and they're willing to be even more versatile than what Vitality is. So that's probably the most terrifying thing about them. It's like a jacked up Vitality. And then 100 Thieves, they're a bit of a mixed bag, because they're running sub in jungle and top. I think they've kind of had mixed performances, and I think that they're kind of in a similar position with Splice, where they didn't read the meta properly, and their style doesn't quite fit, so they're kind of finding their footing. But when you got Levi, and I'm not too familiar with their top laner, but there's cause for chaos from that composition that could create a couple of interesting matchups. But in terms of the head-to-head, right now, I feel like EU has a better grasp of how to handle the early game. So I'm hedging bets towards Europe.
I'm a little worried about Levi. This man has been like the bane of NA and EU at international tournaments so many times. I don't think he's been that great outside of his time on the Gigabyte Marines, but I'm actually really curious, Grabbz, from your perspective, the Huni role swaps everywhere. It's kind of a meme, but I also want to know if it's something that you like worry about or super prep for, or you're just like, he's going to go where he's going to go and we'll figure it out.
I don't think so, because, okay, now we go back to individual strength. I don't think, unlike in NA in the games, that he finds like the disparity in skill on lanes he can abuse. I also think he's a bit hungry for the matchup against Wonder, because I think if we can have the best top laners of both regions against 1-on-1, then I think both top laners want to play this matchup.
For sure, and we do.
So
they're on the screen. That's Blippo and both playing AD carry, probably.
We picked this matchup specifically because Blippo has been role swapping or has been playing in the bottom lane with Fnatic. But I mean, he's a great top laner also in his own right. But maybe Huni also does something crazy. Who knows? If this comes down to a top lane carry matchup, who wins this?
Ooh. I'm going to actually give it to Huni right
now.
now.
Based off of this week's performance, it kind of has to be Huni.
I think that Blippo just like, I think playing bot lane is good, but I also think you become reliant on having a support player in your lane and kind of like having someone dictate the pace, which is something that Blippo talked about in interviews, that like Hylissang makes his life super easy. And I think that Huni is just a monster.
He is.
I mean, he could also just totally fail. That's kind of the Huni experience. Sometimes he just like goes too ham and dies, but I don't think he's going to disrespect in this tournament, and I think that that means that he'll probably come in on top of Blippo. On the other hand, Wonder, who I will agree I think is probably the best performing top laner right now.
He's the best top laner.
That matchup is like a straight 50-50 for me, which is super exciting.
You think it's 50-50?
I think it's 50-50.
I actually think it's 65-35 to Wonder.
Really?
I think he's actually he's consistent, he's smarter, and he's not a maverick. Like, he doesn't feel the need to try and carry games.
Here's my question, though. What does top lane meta look like in 8-13 without Aatrox? That's the thing. That's my hard prediction point.
I mean, that's fair.
Because Huni's an innovator, and don't get me wrong, Wonder has a deep champion pool. We saw that in the Splice days, but it's hard. It's hard for me to like 100% say.
Because he's probably going to be on like Ornn and Mundo like every game.
The good thing though is that Wonder is also really good at absorbing pressure by weird picks.
Sure.
Because I mean, we have Vitality, we have Cabo Shot in the league, and he likes to do that. And Wonder is just really good at, no, okay, I'm a tank, this is my job. He can have 10 CS up, 15 CS, I don't care, but he doesn't get damage on tower and he doesn't kill me. So by the end of 20 minutes, we're going to have same items, and he's useless. So even if Huni comes with like Lucian top or whatever he wants to play, I'm really not worried.
But you know, we're talking a lot about top laners, mid laners. I think
we just glossed over Impact, by the way. You guys, sometimes you have to look at the
yeah, because this is the.
But mid laner.
I was trying to read the prompter, and I was following the rules.
You do great. Boom.
But mid laners, I think EU smashes NA in every regard.
This is a rematch of MSI.
Yeah, Caps, Perks, and Niski I think are all better than Pobelter, Ryu, based on his current performance, and I've forgotten the name of Echo Fox's mid laner. Is it Keen?
It's going to be Damonta, I think, for this tournament.
Really?
They're going to swap, yeah.
Oh, yo, shout out to that guy. He used to play when I cast Collegiate, and he followed me on was my first followers on Twitter.
I think he's really bad. When I saw him play last split towards the second half, I thought he was a big part of why Echo
Actually,
Fox
no,
failed.
it's Phoenix going to play.
Okay, Fenix. Yeah. Fenix,
Sorry,
I have
sorry.
way more confidence in. I have a lot more confidence in him as a mid laner. But in terms of the disparity,
You didn't even know who the mid laners were, and you're saying Drakos is better than
Yeah, it's
them.
okay. Vedius watched
Come
all the
on.
footage.
I did, yeah, all the
forgetting the names. Just turn the nameplates
I've watched the people that I thought would be the biggest threats.
Yeah.
Well, yesterday we talked to Perks, and he said, well, I think that I'm better than Caps right now. So Caps, if he's not as good as Perks, is he still good enough to take on anyone else?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I think NA's mid laner's strength right now is they have a lot of people who are veteran players, and they have a lot of people who know where they need to be generally on the map, but I think that they are much worse mechanically. So I think that if there's a situation where EU mid laners get a 1v1 or a 2v2, including the jungler, for matchup that they can exploit, they will, and that's going to be a huge weakness for NA.
The big thing for me that I think NA will struggle with, based on just what I've seen so far, is and EU has picked up the jungle mid support kind of meta mentality of playing through mid a little faster than they have. At least that seems to be our style. And because we play so much through our mids and we have such strong mids, that I think is a big avenue where we'll find advantages. The other thing is, I think we have a lot of picks that they won't be ready for. Heimerdinger and Pike. I'm being serious. They have not played any Heimerdinger and they have no Pike so far in this split. And the fact that these two picks are so comfortable for Europe, the fact that they haven't played against them is, I think, a bit of a disadvantage.
To be fair, after today, I would be really surprised if you get Heimer again.
Yeah, same.
That's the beauty, right? Like, what do they ban? How many funnel champions can they take away? Well, they're only going to take away the supports. It's like a Braum, Morgana, maybe.
So we're
Tauntaun.
looking at this so much from the European lens, and then I think that all looks really good. So if we put ourselves in the NA shoes, where do you think EU can fall? Where do you think EU is not quite prepared? Is it Team Liquid, the way they play standard can be much better than anything that we're used to here?
I'm worried about
where is there
bot lanes? I would say,
Okay.
yeah, because I think Wonder and Wadid have been good, and I think that the meta is really suiting them. But I kind of in a similar vein to what I was talking about earlier, where it's just an area where I haven't seen them, and I think that NA has really good bottom lanes. I think Ole and Doublelift are really strong, generally, and Ole is especially a playmaker. And not that Wadid isn't, just that I would be concerned that if Team Liquid gets lead on you in bot lane, I think that game gets snowballed super quick if they can keep that.
Is this G2 versus Team Liquid?
This would be G2 versus Team Liquid.
But is the whole thing G2 versus Team Liquid?
No, I actually think Echo Fox will be the biggest threat to Europe.
Okay.
If anyone's going to get the most wins, I think it'll be them. Largely because I'm looking through the lens of who can manipulate the early game best and who can turn that into a snowball which results in a win. And out of the three teams, Echo Fox seems to me like the team that will do that. Dardoch, Huni are both extremely proactive and are constantly willing to make plays. And that's why I can, compare them to Vitality, but they are just better players. And so they are the ones that scare me the most, and they're the ones that I think could be the biggest threat to teams like G2 Fnatic, especially Splice.
Yeah.
I think will really struggle against Echo Fox.
That's true.
I would say one big difference is the team fighting, because NA's meta is a bit slower than ours. That means they get to the stage more often, as I believe in scrims as well. Whereas in Europe, as we can see, unfortunately, also on stage, teams tend to roll over and die very quickly. That means if most likely the team for execution and communication will be better. But that being said, again, we are right now more proficient in skirmishing and early fights from our meta right now. So I think we shouldn't be in an even game after 20 minutes. But if we are, then I can see some struggles happening there.
For sure.
Can I ask about scrims, just in general? Are you seeing, are games going longer? Because I've heard from a couple different teams that it's even more extreme than what we see on stage, where teams literally roll over and die, and it's probably one of the worst times to have good, or to get good practice out of scrims. Or are you guys actually ever able to get those late game scrims where you can practice team fighting?
Depends on the team you scrim, actually. I can't talk too much into it, of course, which teams. But there are teams which are for both teams, 10 minutes, FF go next, because one team is 10-0, the other team is
0-10.
0-10 especially, And other teams are really 30 minutes, 40 minutes, a bit slower early game, a bit more controlled, especially teams who know how to respect vision and pressure. With them, you have better practice, of course, because other teams, you see the support walking around, and we're like, why is he there? There's no reason, and he dies, and then suddenly we get the tower from it. So it just depends.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Finally, well, Rift Rivals is always very exciting. And if anything, it always gives us a unique look into the styles from each region and how they mesh up. Otherwise, it's basically MSI and the end of the year. But it always makes for changes in the region the week after, for good or for worse. Usually, there's a lot of EU being picked up, but Fnatic got a wake-up call last year. So, if anything, do you think anything drastic is going to change in EU because of Rift Rivals, or is it going to be merely the patch?
I mean, so hard to say. Because every time we come into a tournament like this, I'm convinced that we're playing League of Legends the right way.
Yeah, and then we find out we're like, oh no, we were wrong.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to.
And like, I hold on to 2015 Worlds where it was the European lane swap, and I'm like, yes, Europe got it right that time. But
3 years ago.
3 years. I mean, exactly right. I'm still holding on to that, but I think we were clearly wrong last Rift Rivals in terms of how teams needed to play the game. This year, I'm more confident that we're doing it right. Though.
Right. So the caveat to that is we naturally watch a lot of LCK, and their games are a little slower. They're a little more like NA. I remember watching a KT game where it was 4 kills to 2, 40 minutes into the game. They had one team fight, and the game was over, right? And even in China, games aren't even as fast there as they are in Europe, and that region likes to fight a lot, right? So I'm just concerned that our top teams have such a big skill disparity over the teams underneath them. So G2 and Misfits are that much better than everyone else that we are not having a full grasp of how the meta can shape out. And it concerns me that teams are yet to punish these teams. So I think the most value G2 can get is that they go up against NA teams and they successfully punish the strategies that they've been bringing out. That's what I would like to see, because then they can grow a lot. They can bring that back, and then they can grow from it.
That's your mission. That's
as long as you still win.
So
I mean, we can lose a bit in the best of ones as long as you win the best of 5.
Agree. I'm down for that.
I agree. So does EU and Rift Rivals?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. What? Yes.
Is that a question? Or?
I mean, sometimes you just need to round out the topic with
setting up best team.
Can you imagine Grabbz goes, nah, we suck.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. All right, let's move on and check out some of your LCS big plays sent into you guys, by you guys rather, on Twitter, brought to you by Acer Predator. First up, going into this week's Splice, they had 0 wins, but after a great Baron steal, they managed to take down H2K. From Estadistas, lol tweeted, Baron Nashor para Splice, lo robas ersi encima hacen hace esto se acabó, I think.
Not bad.
But this is exactly what old dogs know and love. It's a familiar park, a familiar walk, and it is a familiar Baron dance. H2K are rushing if they're going to be able to get this one down, unless Splice can get in the pick. Gonna be stolen! How did Sjokz do it? In the ensuing fight, though, Oduwame is trying to wreck face. The Rage Blade is stacking, and the Titanic Hydra is tearing apart H2K. On the backside, Niski gets all the kills. Promiscu and Selfie are running for their lives. It's a triple, and here comes Niski. Kobbe will close this one out in a moment or two. H2K will get aced. Kobbe takes him down.
Is bot pushing? Just play slow, play slow. Careful right now, careful right now. Okay?
Do I need to TP? Yeah.
Yes.
They're gonna fight, focus on fight, they're gonna fight us. Oh, nice.
Oh, you got it?
Look window.
Play slow, guys. Play slow. But Sejuani is ulted, Kill Sejuani. Rakan is dead,
Mundo. They're all low.
Can we kill here? Yes. You can kill him, yeah? I go TP top. Hey, Trundle, come with me. I'm coming top as well. I'm pushing mid.
I'll get them.
Get 2 inhibs, okay? Just 2 inhibs. Actually, can we end or no?
Pretty calm.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, that was pretty anticlimactic from a constant point. Every once in a while, I have one that goes, oh, you monster! It's like, yeah.
Oh, we got Baron?
We're going to fight now. Cool. Should I kill this guy? Yeah, why not, I guess.
I mean, when it's the other way around, we criticize them for being too erratic. So, like, you can't please us.
You're not supposed to call us out. Or
if you're a coach, I imagine that's the kind of comms you want all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially in this situation, there's no way H2K, even if they get an Ashe, gets out alive.
Right.
So I think it was a win-win for Splice no matter what, and the players knew it. So then, of course, you can go calm onto the fight.
There we go, Xerxes doing his job, stealing the Baron. But in week 3, we also saw the return of the Italian stallion, Jizuke. He pulled out the Darius against the Unicorns of Love at Siseoka, was impressed, saying, Jizuke can use anything. What does that even mean?
Right, Realm Warp is actually coming in. Colt's going all the way forward. The Unspeakable Horror was used. There's an Apprehend onto Exile. He's forced to flash already. Vitality have already got themselves one. That's a solo kill for Jizuke. No assists needed.
Okay, I'm moving to mid.
They're going.
I can't TP right now. I can't
TP mid, but they're trolling. I can go in. I'm going in.
I will TP after. I'm TPing.
I'm the big.
Go fight, go fight, go fight.
Fight.
Nice!
That's what I was talking about. I can go in, they're trolling. Those are the kind of comps I love to hear.
Just as an explanation, apparently that tweet was originally in Japanese.
Oh,
so that translation might not be completely accurate because someone just pressed Google Translate. So that is why that was a bit confusing. But thank you for sending that in.
Look,
and Jizuke
I'm convinced Jizuke can use
anything. In whatever. Let's just go to finally. Zoe was played in 4 games in a row today. Oh, wow. But Jizuke, Caps, Blanc, and Exile, and Fnatic and Vitality's mid laners especially, they had a lot of success. Here's a couple of highlights from the aspect of Twilight.
Amazing finally does some damage. The sleep onto Nukeduck though stops him in his tracks, and Jizuke is trying to get away from this one. Press the attack, electrocute as well, but Jizuke dodging, flashes away. Amazing with the flash chase, but amazing! Cannot get away from Jizuke! The Italian stallion is back in action.
Come into Jizuke.
Come here, flash.
Oh. I got there.
No flash.
I got him.
Nice job, Jizuke.
Jizuke is back.
Wasn't getting picked up competitive.
Whoa! Grabbz! What? The look of Grabbz' face.
I like how you felt ashamed by doing that. He's like, oh, I'm the champion.
Yesterday,
Games, small indie company. We put the champion in, we can't take her out. It's stuck this way, folks.
Yesterday, it was funny because yesterday we asked Perks about, like, you know, we always tell the storyline of you versus Caps, and he's like, yeah, I want you to focus on the rest of my team as well. And then after the game, I talked to Jizuke, and I was like, the Italian Stallion is back, and he's like, yeah, like, he leans into that. It's awesome, and he is back. And it does seem that, you know, Jizuke doing well does equate with Vitality getting their wins back on the board.
It certainly helps when he's not dying isolated all the time.
That's true. Today he died to the turret, so it didn't give any gold to,
yes,
the,
that also
to the enemy. So yeah, that will be it. We will be back next week. The EU LCS will be back. That's a lie again. It's actually the week after next because there's Rift Rivals next week. But it will be Friday the 13th of July. Ooh, bad luck maybe for H2K versus Vitality, Splice versus Fnatic, and Misfits versus G2, our match of the week. Give me one outlandish prediction for that day.
Splice will beat Fnatic.
Ooh, there we go. Why?
You wanted outlandish. I don't really have just said
give him Rift Rivals. He'll have an answer by the end of it.
20 seconds. Fnatic are going to collapse under the pressure of trying to figure out who they actually should play in the bottom lane because it's just too hard to decide because they're both
Rekka's
so
going to get on stage. He's going to be like, oh, what's a mouse? I don't remember.
They'll fail to field an appropriate roster, and Splice will win by default.
Yeah.
Outlandish.
Nailed it.
That was outlandish. Okay. We also have a tweet from Hussein Musbi himself, I believe, about that match of the week. Let's take a look. Oy, oy. Looking like a 6-0 G2 versus a 6-0 Misfits after Rift Rivals. Next 2 weeks, we'll have some time. We'll have some fun League of Legends.
It's the tamest tweet of all time.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get straight fire, but...
I actually was ready to rumble here, but...
Well, you can. Just, you want to say anything to the Moose?
It's fine.
It's hard after he tweets. Hey guys, hope we have a good match.
To be fair, we're going to save everything for then maybe for the finals. We can't blow the load now.
That's true. No. But see, I would have gone with Moose. When we finish draft, I'm going to shake your hand so firmly, you're going to remember it.
Yeah, that's how the Welsh talk trash.
That's a bit too much cosplay here.
Alrighty, I think that will do it for us, but you can check out the NALCS, because we'll be starting there week 3 with Cloud9 versus TSM. And if you missed any of the action in the EU LCS, we will have a rebroadcast following the show in Los Angeles. So that will be it. That is it for week 3. We'll take a week off next week because we're going to Rift Rivals. You guys are going to Rift Rivals. We are going to have a great tournament over there. Hopefully G2 is victorious together with the other European teams, and we're going to come back swing in week 4.
Of course.
All right,
freebie.
so
it's a freebie.
NAU suck.
Okay, well, remember to tune into Rift Rivals next week. We'll see you then.
You're gonna lose.
Yeah,
badly.
There you go. You know.
Go 6-0. Jizuke is trying to get away from this one. Press the attack, electrocute as well, but Jizuke dodging, flashes away, amazing with the flash chase, but amazing! Cannot get away from Jizuke! The Italian stallion is back in action.
Nice job, Jizuke is back.
to you.
I'm bounced. I'm dead.
Let's see if Sjokz can find a pick here. Oh, they can.
Yeah, they can. Oh,
Wasn't getting picked competitive.
What?
But I honestly did not decide to go for it.
Vision is there though. Rocket know what's happening because they managed to get the team. TTC! That's the wombo. Oh, that Ezreal out. Cobby, you managed it! Exile's in the middle of everything, but no. Heimerdinger gonna grab the kill onto Kindred. That's the double.